Hey bears, I am the Gaming-Grizzly and welcome back to Identity 5. And today we finally received the first gameplay and skill explanation of the new upcoming survivor, the Professor, which is the survivor form of the Evil Reptilian. And we have to talk about these skills because they are very interesting. So let's jump right into it, starting with the scale hardening skill. The Professor can harden the scales on his body for 1 second, and this grants him the ability to block all normal attacks. If the block fails, the Professor can harden his scales again in 8 seconds. Hunters will be knocked back and rendered temporarily immobile for 4 seconds upon hitting the Professor's hardened scales. So that means, if you're timing it right, again, you only have a 1 second time window to activate the scales and, absorb the hit. But if you're timing it right, that will push back the Hunter and at the same time stun him for 4 seconds, which is huge. That is a huge impact on the Hunter and will definitely give you a great time kiting. Because if you think about it, if you're able to get the early game kite and you can provide 60 seconds of kiting, that would mean you could approximately utilize your skill around 1 to 2 times because you can block 1 to 2 hits, which will be absolutely fantastic for the rest of the team that is decoding cipher machines. This will push back the Hunter and stun him for 8 seconds. Once this ability successfully blocks a Hunter's normal attack, the scale hardening will take 60 seconds to cool down. That's what I meant with the early game kite of a 60 seconds kite, because if you can absorb a hit, your kite will be longer, 60 seconds will pass, you can activate it again, if you time it right. If both hardening attempts within 8 seconds fail, the cooldown will be reduced to 30 seconds, which is absolutely fine. But if we look at, for example, the Perfumer can utilize your perfume and it takes her several seconds. So she could take a hit after, let's say, 3, 4, 5 seconds and still reverse the damage, which is absolutely fantastic. But with that skill, you only have a 1 second time window. But that 1 second time window is paying off big time. That 1 second time window pushes back the Hunter and stuns him. So in my opinion, if you are able to hit the timing right, that survivor is extremely strong. With the scale hardening ability, that is crazy. On top of that, we also have the scale shedding ability for the Professor. The Professor can inject himself with poison to shed a scale on the spot. Scales can be shed in advance at 3 fixed positions. Survivors will automatically pick up the scales when passing through and obtain a 1 charge of scale hardening. Now there are several questions. First of all, how many times can the Professor utilize the scale shedding? How many times can he inject himself with poison? And how many times can he, put down the scales for other survivors? And the second question is, since the teammates automatically pick up the ability of scale hardening, does that mean that it doesn't matter if they have an item, it will be a second item in their inventory? And this also opens up the question, will the Priestess or the Enchantress or the Gardener, who usually cannot pick up a second item, will they be able to pick up the scale hardening ability from the Professor? That would be absolutely interesting to see, but Hunters will be knocked back for only 1.78 seconds. So that is a little bit, less of an effect right here in comparison to the Professor utilizing his scale hardening ability. And survivors cannot pick up another scale within 120 seconds after the scale expires, so that means they can only utilize it tops every 2 minutes, in comparison to the 1 minute that the Professor can utilize the scale hardening. And now we are coming to what I think is a passive ability of the Professor, the scaled skin, and that is opening a lot of questions. The scales on his bodies are a symbol of evolution. The Professor's unhardened scales can block no more than half the damage from the Hunter's normal attack. Damage from the photographer's camera world merging with reality and the breaking wheels inflicting pierce cannot be blocked. So he can block half a damage. So that, I would assume, means, we see it in the video, he cannot take damage from the hook. He cannot be hooked. But does that mean that the Professor can automatically block the damage from the Guard 26's bombs? Or for example the Sculpture's statues, because they deal half damage? And if so, is that always the case? For example, if there's 1 bomb coming in, will we have a cooldown of the scaled skin? For example, let's say 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds the scaled skin comes in effect and he could avoid 1 damage hit from the bombs or from the statues. Because right now we don't really have a time indication, it doesn't say 30 seconds, so this indicates that the Professor could potentially block every single hook from the Gamekeeper could block every single bomb from the Guard 26 and every single statue from the Sculptor, which would be absolutely insane and a huge counter to so many hunters. We also have the Toxicity limit. The poison used by the Professor to shed his scales forces him to the verge of madness. The Professor's decoding speed is reduced by 10% for 30 seconds after shedding a scale, which I think is absolutely reasonable. If you're able to support your teammate that is kiting with a scale and that teammate can take another hit and push the hunter back for around 2 seconds, that is a huge advantage, a huge help for the kiting survivor that will most likely end up in a longer kite that will provide the rest of the team more time to decode, and for you to have a 10% decoding debuff for 30 seconds, again, I think that is a great trade-off. And last but not least, on top of all the abilities that the Professor already brings, we also have the Evil Scale. The eerie aura coming from the scale affects the hunter's attacks. Hunters within 5.1 meters of the Professor will take 0.3 seconds longer to complete a normal attack. This, first of all, gives you as Professor the chance to activate your scale in this 1 second time window a little bit better, because you can see as soon as the hunter hits, it's taking him longer, which gives you the chance to activate your scale effect, your scale hardening in the right moment, and to push the hunter back to, you know, stun the hunter at the same time. It also helps you when you're rescuing and you're trying to body block for your teammates, and overall, all the skills of the Professors, they seem extremely powerful. They seem almost a little bit too powerful. I would absolutely love to hear your opinion, what you think about the skills of the Professor. All of his scale skills are absolutely amazing, so leave me comments in the comment section below. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and if you haven't already, leave me a fat like.